On this episode of ResiWeek, Giles Sutton is hired as CEDIA External Engagement. USB-C is the one wire for VR. Government investigations for smart TVs and renovation spending is expected to be up 7%. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 129, Dear Senator.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment, and by Crestron.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matty Scott for AVNation.tv, and today I'm pleased to be joined by a longtime friend of mine. It is Todd Puma. He is the president of the Source Home Theater. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thank you for asking, buddy.
Thanks so much for joining us again. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
It's been a while. I missed you guys.
I know.
It's been a long time of cuddling.
Missed you too. And last but not least, I'm joined by my constant, it seems, partner in crime right now, Tim Albright. He's the founder of AVNation. How you doing, buddy?
It sounded like a complaint.
No.
Totally sounded like a complaint. I'm well, sir. How are you?
I always love having you on. You're a blast and a treasure. You're a national treasure.
Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't say which nation, though.
Nope. It's Uganda. And we've lost the show. All right. We're going to start this off with a wonderful piece of news. This just came out from CE Pro. It'll be up on our website a little bit later in the day once everything else comes out. Giles Sutton of James & Giles is taking over and has accepted a position with CEDIA as the Senior Vice President of Industry Engagement. This is big news for both Giles and CEDIA, as this is something that, CEDIA has been looking for. This job search has been going on for a while, and they're very happy to announce that Giles is joining them to continue the company's outreach efforts and expanding and executing their strategic plan. Full disclosure, I know Giles pretty well. We have both served on the board of CEDIA together, and congratulations to him. Very excited to see what he does within the industry and how he continues to help CEDIA as an industry move forward.
Real quickly, he is, though, leaving the CEDIA board as well.
Yes, he is. Yes, he's stepping down. I believe that's already happened. And he's taking this new position, which is going to hopefully involve him visiting a lot of us as he travels around to work on engagement and all those fun things. Let's continue the CE Pro trend and talk about a story that was released just a couple of days ago from Julie Jacobson as she was flying over to Barcelona for the ISE announcement. I'm not mentioning what happened while she was there. You can read that for yourself if you follow her feed. Move over HD-based the VR industry has embraced USB-C for one-wire technology. Essentially, what's going on is the VR industry has been searching for that holy grail of a single wire that allows you to use their headsets and their microphones and the whole headset apparatus that comes with VR with a single cable. They had been working with HD-based to produce a solution for this, but at last it seems that it had some issues supporting the high resolution, the high video resolution and frame rates that VR really needs. So they have gone another route, and it looks like they have jumped on the USB-C bandwagon. Todd, this obviously is not directly within our channel or our industry yet, as far as the VR side of things. But it's an interesting viewpoint on the fact that, something that we within the industry have always looked for is that one single cable to a TV that does everything we need. HD-based is one of those technologies that a lot of times you're going to use for that. The VR group has found that USB-C is doing this better. What does this mean, or what potential is there for this to arrive in the residential channel?
It seems like everything is a trickle down effect or trickle up effect, whatever you want to consider the commercial market versus the residential market. But I believe that this is going to hit us sooner than later, especially with the VR technology becoming more of like an Alexa voice control and kind of request from our customers. But with technology, streaming and audio coming to it a lot faster, of course, we're going to want to, get involved in that. But we have fiber, right? Fiber has been one of those cables that we're kind of been using, but not been using as much as we should. And Cat 6 has been doing the job, but it's one of those other options that we're going to give to our clients that they could have to build a better solution, to get them the best resolutions, and also future-proof them for, future products coming out, later on in the years.
Very good. Tim, Todd touched on an interesting aspect of it, which is fiber. There's no mention in the article that they had tested fiber. I would like to think that they had. Is this something where, fiber may have just priced itself out from a durability standpoint? And also, how surprised are you that it seems that HD-based T wasn't able to produce the type of frame rates and resolutions that VR is looking for?
Well, I guess first questions first. Fiber has historically been incredibly expensive, especially when you can put it up against Cat 5. However, those prices have come down drastically in the last 2 to 3 years. The other knock against fiber has also been historically that it's difficult to terminate, especially in the field. A number of companies have come out with solutions that address that. Corning has a solution. I know that Belden also has a solution that they released not this past InfoComm, but InfoComm before last. That's basically you just click it. Basically, there's no cleaving, there's no polishing, there's no anything. You just put the fiber in, you put the connector in, and you're good to go. I am though surprised that HD-based T wasn't able to come up with a solution, and it may not be due to HD-based T's failure as it is the success of USB-C. Understand what that is. I mean, the adoption rate of that is much faster, at least it appears to be, than USB 2.0. And some of the reason for that is because of the higher power rates. Some of it also be because of the higher frame rate transports. The other thing is you've got companies like Apple, and you have companies like the PC manufacturers who have jumped on board in this and go, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. We don't have to have, VGA or HDMI or anything else. We can do, video and audio and power and all this stuff over a single cable. And so the technology, the resources started going to USB-C because the computer manufacturer was like, oh, hey, this is awesome. And so I guess from a media standpoint, the audience was there, so the technology was like, okay, let's kind of start drilling down into that. And so you've got phone manufacturers now, and you have some of the car manufacturers who are adding USB-C to their connectivity, and so you've got this groundswell. And I see this, to Todd's point, is pushing into residential and eventually into commercial as well, where USB-C is going to be a very viable, and it's going to start a very viable transport for folks, not just in computers, but also in our conference rooms, in our boardrooms, and in our living rooms, where folks are wanting to connect, these devices to displays and to VR.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story of the day. This comes to us from strategy.com. Senators are calling for a government investigation of the smart TV industry. This is written by our good friend Ted Green. This is something that we looked at last week, and we ran out of time for it. But it was a story in the New York Times that came out about Samba TV, which is a built-in smart TV platform that seems to be tracking users as far as what they're viewing, what they're watching, what they're streaming, and maybe not disclosing how they're using that data as well as they should. So this past week, 2 U.S. senators from Massachusetts and Connecticut sent a letter to the chairman of the FTC raising concerns about consumer privacy with smart TV technology, specifically asking that federal regulators investigate the business practices of smart television manufacturers whom they believe are tracking consumers' viewing behavior without their knowledge. Tim, Ted gets into a lot of stuff on this, as far as, you know, how deliberately confusing opt-in wording is on those end user agreements, which is fairly standard in every piece of electronics you own, that they're, you know, really using it as an advertising technology base point, as well as how the Samba TV seems to be tracking literally everything you're doing on that TV. One, when we start to look at this, obviously it seems that some government oversight is needed. But do we really expect that the government is going to be capable of providing proper oversight, given some of the things that have been going on within the government recently, as well as, dare I just point to the entire Facebook debacle?
You mean the fact that there was no government oversight on that? Yeah.
No. Even just listening to those committee meetings.
Oh yes,
with
were fantastic.
With Zuck.
Yeah.
Looking at those,
How
I'm
do you
not
make
sure
money
I
again?
want.
Now, let me understand this. I've got
Senator, we sell ads.
I'm on the Facebook, and my son sends me a like. God love our Congress people and our senators. They've got about as much business doing this as they do. Never mind. There's a political statement that I probably shouldn't make.
Probably not.
They're hamstrung, right? They don't understand the technology. They don't understand where these companies, how these companies are making money, nor how they're tracking us. If, just like us, they don't read the EULAs, the user license agreement, then they're probably as stuck as we are, and I'm not sure that they could actually a majority of them make sense of them, even though a good majority of them are lawyers. This company is not doing anything any different than Amazon. If you're on Amazon Prime or Netflix, if you're using Netflix or any other media platform like that. So I don't understand the consternation unless it is in the light of the Facebook debacle. Then I get it, right? Should they be doing it? Yeah, government oversight when it comes to protecting consumers is probably never really a bad idea. Having the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, not the FCC, but the Federal Trade Commission looking at this actually makes me a little bit more comfortable than having the FCC look at it, because I've lost a lot of confidence in the FCC in the last year, and I've made those views widely known that I do not agree with the FCC's current stance on net neutrality. I don't know they ever will. So I have more confidence in the FTC looking at this than I do the Federal Communications Commission. Figuring out and putting some constraints on what companies can do with the information that they gather from us, probably not a bad thing. But again, if you're already buying this and you're agreeing to the user license, the end user agreement, then you kind of know what you're getting into. You understand that these companies are tracking the apps that you're using and how often you're using them and what you're watching. I mentioned Amazon and Netflix. They're both, cataloging what you're watching and what your most, favorite show is, much like Nielsen did and still does, way back in the last, good Lord, 30 or 40 years. So I don't really understand the, in my opinion, knee-jerk reaction to, oh my gosh, they're tracking what you're doing. Well, of course they're tracking what you're doing. And it just comes down to making sure that you understand what you're getting into from a consumer standpoint as well as a dealer standpoint. You understand and you relay that information. You relay the pros and cons of using specific smart TVs like this to your clients. And
Todd, Tim brings up a really good point there with, explaining this to your clients. How much of the onus is on the home technology professional, the integrator, to explain this to your client? Because the question I have is, your client has a decent car, probably has a navigation system. They're tracking that data. They probably have a smartphone. That data is being tracked. They're probably on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever else, maybe Tinder. They're tracking that. Pretty much, if you're a member or a part of any sort of technology group online, where you're consuming data or information of some form, it's being tracked. How much of an onus is it on the integrator to explain that to your client when you sell them an Apple TV or a Roku or, some form of streaming device? And does it have to go beyond just so you know, when you sign up for the EULA, they're going to track you?
It hasn't been something that I've been discussing with my customers, because most of them are aware of what's going on in the news, since, half of them are hedge fund guys or dealing with money every day. So they're always tracking what's happening in our market. The only thing I do make customers aware of is the Amazon Echo, how it does record a conversation while you're asking for a command, because that can be recorded back and played back. And just want to make them fully aware of that someone else can listen to it who is also attached to that account. And that's only been the only place that I touch base on. But with this whole thing that's going on, it's all about making a better user experience for the client. What they're doing is, it's not only on the negative end, like, it stated in this article, it's also on the positive end that it does help you if you forget things. I forget everything now that's going on. So I see something that's popped up on my Facebook page or another page I'm going on. It shows me an ad of, oh, yes, I need to purchase that tool. I remember now. And there's been other experiences, like with recommended shows on Apple TV, that it's been benefiting me and helping us kind of finding a niche of what we like to go for in our movies and music listening. So, good.
And that's the balance, right?
Right.
Is we like that, because when I'm on my Apple Music, device on my iPhone, it tailors the new music to the 3 or 4 genres that I really like. I don't have to sit there and wait and search for it. But how much is that benefit versus, concern? How much of that is something that you actually see your clients concerned about?
Really, the concern is I'm not too concerned about everything that's occurring, like on this political side of the end, because the customers are coming to us for a user experience. They're coming to us so they can relax after a long day of stress, that they could take it back and just kind of chill for a moment and, use their equipment that they spent all this money on. The little, legalisms and all that is, if we bring it up, yes, now based on this conversation that we're having, yeah, I'll put it in paperwork just so the customers can sign off on it. And I will bring it up as a bullet point for discussion, just in case that it does come back to us legally. But for the whole user experiences, I'm on the other edge of this. I'm on the positive end of what this is going to do for us and bring to us.
Very good. And, it's really the key of, you're not going to get that experience if you don't agree to that EULA.
Well, that's the thing is you guys have to protect yourselves as your companies and your families, but that is the conversation, right? You make them aware that these TVs, these apps, these whatever, they're tracking your use, and the reason they're doing that, to Todd's point, on the positive side, they're doing that to give you a better experience. Mm-hmm. They understand that. They understand that going in, that you guys are actually doing a service by giving them a kind of a Cliff Notes version of the EULA, of the user license agreement, and you are helping them make that decision. If they choose not to, then they choose not to, and they choose not to have that experience. However, I'm going to guess that probably 90 to 95% of your clients are going to go, oh yeah, absolutely, and do what they would have done anyway, which is just click I agree.
Well, the thing is, our customers also, we're building fear. Is when you're bringing up things like this, you're actually taking away from the joy of the experience of offering what we offer to them. And to take off that edge, we're going right into business, and then we're going into more business, and then we're going into, hey, by the way, you're being kind of spied on by everybody in the government, as well as everybody.
No, hang on.
I love that phrase. You're kind of being spied on by everyone in the government.
But it's how you position it, right? Just like with any other sales process, it's how you position. It's how you say it. It's like, look, you're being tracked, and you can even say you're being tracked, just like you are when you open up Spotify, right? Or you use another app that is, again, in case you didn't look at the license agreement, they're tracking your usage too. This is the same way. You can spin it, or you can put it however you want it. But I guess it's kind of on you guys how you present it to them in the best positive light or in the worst positive light. Depends on how you feel about it.
Yeah, it's funny you bring it up, Tim. I went through this with a client probably about a year ago, and they were a IP, intellectual property lawyer. and we're sitting in their gym that they just had renoed in their basement, and there's a 55 something on the wall, and we're going through the setup, and she was right on top of us the entire time we're doing it, and it very quickly pops up with the EULA, and she's like, okay, I got to read this. I'm like, okay, so we went and did something else as she scrolls through the 15 screens of the EULA, and I come back in, and she's like, well, I'm really concerned about this. Oh, okay. What would you like to do? She's like, well, I need Netflix. I'm like, okay, so we can get you an Apple TV, and we'll have to put it behind the screen and everything else, or you can use it built into the TV. She's like, well, I have to agree to the EULA then. I'm like, yes. She's like, but will they track me? I'm like, probably, but they'll track you using Netflix anyways. Huh. Okay, click. And we had this big, huge, not huge, but we had a 5-minute discussion over how scared she was of this EULA. And then at the end of the day, she wanted Netflix, so she didn't really care. And that's the kicker. All right, gentlemen, let's grab our last story of the day. This comes to us from CE Pro and Jason Knott. Home remodeling spending is expected to grow 7% in 2019. Essentially, home remodeling spending is expected to reach $346 billion in Q2 of 2019, up 20% from 2 years ago. Todd, I want to start with you on this one. These are, KPI, key leading indicators of any industry, but specifically in this one, remodeling activity. And we like to sit back and say, ooh, this is great for us. This is fantastic. More people are renovating. We can sell home technology to those people as they're renovating. And even according to the data that comes to us from the NAHB, which is the National Association of Home Builders, they're expecting 7 to 12% of new home construction to be devoted to electronics. Todd, is this something as an integrator you can look at and go, I don't know, maybe something to the effect of, hey, we're going to ramp up, we're going to try and bring on some new staff or modify our marketing because we see these leading indicators coming that, home renovations are going to be stronger this year. Do you put any stock in this kind of data as far as the day-to-day or future planning of your business?
For myself, I go by how the market is leading me for my company. I also go by the pulse of the other integrators in this market as well. You could tell when the industry is growing in this area based upon how many integrators are moving. My pulse to everything that's going on is my reps. I always speak to my reps. I ask them questions on how the other integrators are doing, also productivity, what's happening in the market. With this information, the only thing I would use it for is if I was trying to overcome an objection from a builder or an architect. I would show them this and say, look, this is what you're not offering. Here's what's happening. And it's your builders. This is your end of things. This is what you should be putting in your homes. And they would take that into consideration. But for myself and what I'm going to be doing, I'm not going to change the way I'm doing things just because this is telling me that they got these numbers from wherever it may be that's telling them that it's going to grow this percentage. I want to feel it. I want to see it. And I want the rest of my integrators to tell me that this is actually happening.
Very good. Tim, I'm not going to take issue with this, but I want to ask you this based on, I'm going to, but I've got to preface it because Jason is a good friend of mine. I don't want him to feel like I'm attacking him, and I'm not. I'm attacking the National Association of Home Builders. But specifically in this article, he quotes them and says that they're expecting between 7 to 12% of new home construction will be devoted to electronics. Further, that those percentages will carry over for remodeling spending, meaning that homeowners will spend between $4.6 billion and $38.8 billion on electronics as part of remodeling projects for existing homes between July and October of 2018. $38 billion is an awful lot of flat screens. It's an awful lot of Sonos boxes. It's an awful lot of, top-end, fully automated theaters. When I look at this number, not the dollar amount, but that percentage of 7 to 12%, I have a really hard time looking, down the street from me and seeing homes being built that are $500,000 homes up to $1 million homes and saying 10% of that $1 million is not electronics. Where is this type of number coming from? What is being grouped into electronics here?
So let's take a step back and look at the CEDIA Expo show floor. What is being shown there? And yes, there are flat screens, absolutely, and there are control and automation platforms, absolutely. But there are also shades. There's also lighting. There are most likely, if not this year, then next year, there will be some sort of smart appliances on the CEDIA show floor. So you take all of those things into consideration. I would give them probably the 8 to 9, maybe 10%, because of all of those other devices and forms of automation. And then this is not even getting into solar and not even getting into, battery backups and generators and stuff like that. So you consider everything that a residential integrator can do and sometimes is expected to do. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there. I mean, shades are not cheap. Lighting systems are not cheap. Control systems aren't overly expensive, but they're also not cheap. So yeah, you could quickly get to the 9, maybe 10%.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. That's all the time we have. Todd, if people want to connect with you, learn more about the Source Home Theater, where can they do that?
You could contact me on Twitter at the Source HTI, or you could get in touch with me at todd@thesourcehometheater.com.
Very good. Tim, thanks for joining us again and bringing your deep, vast knowledge to our residential show. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Probably the best place is Twitter, at TD Tim David Albright on the Twitters.
Beautiful. Thanks again for joining us. For myself, if you'd like to find me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.